Welcome to Mediumship Moments with second-generation psychic medium Kim Dorham. Join her as she shares her personal journey with mediumship, connects with your loved ones, and discusses topics dealing with spirituality.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Kim Dorham, psychic medium, second-gen, actually, psychic medium. I grew up with a mother who did this professionally. I thought all moms talk to dead people. So on my podcast, I talk about all kinds of things in all the realms of spirituality, what it was like growing up with a mother who did this professionally, the murder cases I work on, the events that I do, and just a day in the life of Kim. I also have guests coming up. So thanks for tuning in and enjoying the next 20, 30 minutes we have together. So today, I call it the Divine Dialogues, a medium answers your burning questions. So I posted a few weeks ago on my Instagram, questions that you'd want to ask a psychic medium, things that maybe have happened to you, spiritual realm, that you're like, is that normal or weird or strange? All of those questions come up. What happens when you do this? You know, all those different types of questions that you may not have a chance to sit in front of a psychic medium to ask. So I thought I'd answer some of those questions today. So one question, and this is from Leopard Cats and Egyptian Mouse, I think. Do spirits ever get frustrated that they're not being heard or understood? Well, that's a great question. On the other side, you know, the emotional side is interesting because I wouldn't call it as much frustration as them working diligently to get in front of you to pass a message along. And I talk about how people end up in front of me to get a message. Now, try not to work outside the studio. As I've said, you know, I'm a battery pack and I've got to conserve my energy for my clients that wait those weeks, months, and then some to sit with me. So there are things that happen in the normal course of my day that people are put in front of me to share a message. And when that happens, we just sit back and go, wow, like it's usually a skeptic who would never sit in front of a psychic medium. And the next thing you know, boom. I can think of an older gentleman I was sitting across from. I was out grabbing a bite to eat. And I knew I had a long day. It was in between. I had meetings all morning. And then I had clients in the afternoon, and I was like, okay, if you know me, you know I don't do hangry well. So I ran out and grabbed a quick bite. And there was a gentleman sitting at the counter to my right. And, you know, we struck up a conversation. He was wearing a Philly shirt. And I was like, hi, how are you? You know, I just love the Phillies. And you know, I talked about meeting Larry Bowa and having a home run ball and bum, bum, bum. And there was just this energy around him that I could see. And there was a woman, his wife, I believe her name was Eileen. And she kept talking about the trip to Florida that he needed to go. Apparently, they would go down and stay at friends' homes and hang out together. And her husband, I believe his name was Pat, kept putting it off. I'm at the counter. There's his wife sitting in between us, so to speak. She's on the spiritual realm. And the conversation came up about my dad in Florida. And I'm not going to... It puts me in a dilemma because I can see the wife. She's talking to me, telling me to tell her husband to go to Florida. But it's how you get there, right? So I mentioned about my dad living in Florida, and he goes, oh, I was going to go, but I canceled a trip. And I said, I think your wife wants you to go. And he looked at me. I said, you know, she's earned her wings, but she's with you, and she really is giving you a kick to go. And he looked surprised. And I said, yes. I said, I'm a medium, and I can see your wife sitting here, and she hasn't been quiet the entire time I'm eating lunch. And he laughed. He goes, boy, could she talk. And that was just a gentle way of an angel getting my attention in my daily life. The angels get annoyed when you all pull the curtains shut and put the covers over your head, and you're like, oh, that's it. Life as I know it has ceased to exist. Again, to answer that, do they get frustrated about not being heard? They'll put themselves in front of me to make it happen. And that's just one case that I can show you about that or share with you. So the next question from at BPMC66, who was kind enough to write, are you able to turn off your vision? Now, when they say vision, I'm just going to assume that you all are talking about my clairvoyant, which is my ability to see things either moving forward in time, which is the psychic side, or the clairvoyant that I use to be able to see those that have crossed over. So let's talk about this. I meditate at least once a day to turn on this portal of energy. I run my chakras, and I will be teaching you all how to do that in an upcoming episode I worked with James Van Prague with this, and also John Holland. Shout out to him. Love him to pieces. He's a medium up in New Hampshire. He's fabulous, amazing teacher. If you have a chance to sit in front of him, do it. Drop everything and do it. But they both talk about chakras and running them and opening up those portals. And so I take from what they taught me to do that. So in this case, when I mentioned about the story about being at grabbing a bite to eat and Pat being across from me on the counter, I had already ran my chakras in the morning. So I'm on. So I can turn this energy up, go from 120 wattage to 240. And then at night, when I turn myself off, and there's a couple of ways to do that through visualization of water coming over those portals of the chakras from your head to your toe and turning off the purple on top of your head, the crown chakra, indigo, which is your third eye, which is where I see this from. Then the blue chakra, which is throat chakra communication. Green, which is over your heart center, which is healing. It's a lot of emotion, but healing. Your yellow gut psychic center. Orange sacral. And then the red, the root. Okay, so those portals are of energy. The question is am I able to turn it off? At night, I'll turn off my chakras, my light bulbs, as I call them. But I can turn it down, but I can't turn it off. So I'm always kind of on. I'm a physical medium who works energetically. So this is very draining. So if I'm doing an event, I'm not going to work the day before because I've got to save up my battery pack. So my next question, which is interesting in the sense because it talks about bad spirits and they put it in quotes. And I don't have the person that wrote this, but do you ever come across bad spirits? If so, what does it look like compared to your typical client spirits? So everything works on a vibrational energy form, right? So there's low vibrational energies and then there's higher. So a higher vibrational energy I've communicated with, which would be nuns, priests, abbots, things like that. Rabbis, high vibrational energy. Low vibrational energy would be those that, I don't want to use the word bad or evil, but just low vibrational. They just come from a lower frequency. And have I ever came across one? Well, yeah, I did. It was actually back in the day of my mom used to do what were called house parties. And she'd come to people's homes and they would do, psychic readings. I guess. I don't know. But she would do a home I did home galleries early on in my career. But anyway, I was at somebody's home. And it was actually a friend of mine who asked me to come over and hang out with some friends and talk to some angels. And I remember being out it was in a historical section of New Jersey where there was a lot of activity, shall we say. And I was on the porch side that was kind of like an office. And I remember being there and this gentleman from the other side came up and got, shall we say, in my interpersonal space. And he was a bit curmudgeon-y. He was not happy. I felt he was connected with the land and tried to intimidate me by his presence. Now, I work within the white light. I do a prayer that surrounds me within the white light of Christ for protection, that I don't have to deal with low vibrational energies. Why did that happen? Even if I work within the white light, my feeling was he was attached to the land, attached to the home. He didn't understand. He was kind of in a time warp. Either he didn't understand that he was crossed. He still thought it was mid 1800s and just was a curmudgeon-y merchant type of, the best way I can give you what he looked like. So I basically communicated with him of who I was and that he was not to be fearful, and that I had said that I worked, I surrounded myself within the white light, and that I asked him to step back. And I tease, I'm never afraid of the work that I do because only those of positive light and energy will have the opportunity to connect with me. That doesn't mean I don't see them, like if I'm doing paranormal investigations. But there's a difference between telepathically, which is how they communicate with me, which is kind of like hearing them with my inside ear, as opposed to connecting with them spiritually and physically and using their energy to communicate with a client. There's different ways of doing that. And so I'm cognizant of that. But that was the one time that, and I teased the only energy or angel I'm afraid of or was intimidated by on the physical plane and the spiritual plane would be that of Joan Durham. So, Thoughts are energy. I don't give them fear because fear is energy and they'd feed off of that, especially if they're a lower vibrational energy. So here's another one. And this question I love. This came from another lovely listener. And I think it was M.A. Kelly 282. And she wrote, as a child, did you hide your gift because you felt different? And I would have to say, I talked about this briefly, at the age of 10, somebody called my mother a witch. I was teased by this one, and I still remember his name and what he looked like and where it happened. Yeah, I guess it gave me an emotional imprint. I learned from that my mom was different. Now, most people who talked to me, friends that I had, knew what my mom did. It was no big deal. This is usually people who didn't know me as well and felt that they could make fun of me. And again, kids will, let's face it, middle school sucks. So, there have been times that I've kept what my mom did quiet because I wanted to walk in my own path. And that happened early on again in my nursing career because I could see, hospitals are a really busy place for energies. Can I just say? It's just busy. I was sitting down at the nursing station. And I could see all this activity. And I had made a comment about one of the patients that I was worried about them turning south and, not doing well because I could see a lot of activity spiritually. Call it the transition team in his room. And one of the nurses commented, isn't your mom a psychic medium? Can you see them? And I kind of just piped down because, it wouldn't be known as the angel of death. That's totally contraindicated for somebody in the nursing field, but there are times that, my mom used to tease that if somebody asked about what she did, she didn't want to talk about it, she'd say she was a librarian, which I thought was pretty funny because I wouldn't say my mom was a voracious reader. But anyway, definitely as a child, there were times I kept it quiet. Now, here's our next question, and it came from Hillopeka something. The question here is, if someone shows up in your dream, they are sending you a message. It is their way of being able to bridge two realms. The physical and the spiritual realm, okay? It's kind of like they get to step over the threshold. And that's what I talk about when I communicate. I'm over a threshold. And I'm here in the physical plane with my client. And then I'm stepping over to the spiritual plane, chatting with them, and then passing the messages to the physical realm. When your loved ones step over the spiritual realm to the physical realm for you to see, that is their way of communicating with you. First off, so many of my clients ask me, it's one of the big questions. They're like, after someone passes, will they come in my dreams? Will I sense them? How will I know that they're here? How can I connect with them? And that's an upcoming podcast that I'll teach you all about how to learn to communicate with them, or at least connect with them. I often say we all have this ability. You just need to fine tune it. And it's interesting because people will tell me, well, he said this, or my mom said that. And then I asked them, I said, well, do you remember them talking? No, I could just hear them. And that's how they communicate, clairaudiently, telepathically. They're communicating with you with your inside ear, kind of like how they talk to me. Even if they just stand there, they're showing you that they're okay. If they pass along a message, fantastic. If they show you that they're with other people and animals, as they often do with me, but that's their way of letting you know they're okay. Our next question is a great one. And when I say great, I may make a podcast just about this, but it comes from I See Me Well, which I kind of like that name. But it talked about with so many imposters out there, and there are. Is there any way to verify the authenticity like me? So let's talk about the imposters out there. Briefly, there are what I call trolls. There are people in third world countries or somebody's basement that go around hitting all of the other psychic medium sites. Now, when I say hitting, the imposters or the trolls will mirror. They'll take a picture of the background image of somebody's website, and then they'll steal another picture from the person's website, and they'll create a false Instagram page, Facebook page. And then they'll start to reach out to the people who are following and ask those followers of mine, for example, to be their friends. And once they friend them, they're so excited. Kim Durham asked me to be their friend. And I love friends, don't get me wrong. The more friends you have, the richer the people, the richer you are. But in this case, that's how the trolls work. So I tell everyone I will never reach out to you in your DMs. Anybody who's looking to book a session has to reach out to me through my website to do so, right, at kimdorm.com. One way you can authentically verify a medium, and I just had this happen to me, which was kind of striking because, I've worked with well-known mediums, and one of the things they all teach are ethics. There are ethics behind what I do. And just like there were ethics and policies in being a nurse and the care that I gave, the same thing is true in this profession. So I tell people to, first off, look at their webpage, look at their followers. They should have in their about where they've studied, who they've studied with, the work that they've done. It's important to do your homework. Recommendations, always fantastic, but take that recommendation and then do a little bit of a deep dive. So I want to go back to, I've got a couple more questions here that are just fantastic to touch upon. So Carol Wild, 17, do you see auras around people and know their emotional state? Yes. Auras are your battery pack that you wear. When you say, God, I was drawn to their energy, you quite literally are drawn to their energy. So when people sit in front of me, if you're health-wise humming on all cylinders, your brightness would be about 120 wattage. If you've just gotten a new relationship, your aura would be brighter, 240 wattage. If you're battling something health-wise, your aura is diminished, your brightness is diminished 60 to 90. Then within that aura, I see colors. Colors denote your emotional state. Okay, if it's brown and black, brownish, or darkened, you're either dealing with grief or something either emotionally, difficult news, which would be either a diagnosis or just had someone lost, meaning in grief. You lost a loved one. If I see people with purple aura, I know them to be very highly psychic. If I see people with green aura, I know they work in healthcare. And then within the aura, I can see the mediscus, which is a symbol of healthcare, and it may say RN, MD over it. So there's colors, there's a brightness, a color, and symbols within your aura. In fact, when I go some places, I won't sit with certain people because of their energy. And my family knows well enough that I'm like, nope, I want to sit over here. This is a good question. I'm going to end our Q&A on this one because I think it's really important. It's by @manlaugh, which man_laugh. And this person asks, how do you manage your personal emotional health while helping others heal? That's a big question. It said, I'm sure your life can feel overwhelming and consuming, even though your purpose is to help others. How do you keep your own glass filled? God, I love that question. Okay. So yes, my personal emotional health is really, really important. I'm a physical medium, but I'm also a person. And I'd have to say navigating loss recently with my dad, with him earning his wings, was kind of difficult. And I'd taken some time off. It was difficult. It was difficult to talk to other people's dads when I was still grieving the loss of my dad. I have to make sure that I fill my joy tank or keep my glass filled. And how do I do that, right? Laughter. I'll watch something funny. I will go to comedy shows. I will play my guitar badly. I will take a walk somewhere in nature. I don't care if it's hiking, get my walking sticks out, or go to the beach. Sometimes I just need to disconnect. I'd seen Tyler Henry do this recently. He just had a pajama day and kind of just hung out with himself and just recharged his battery. And sometimes I just need to do that because it's a lot. I'm helping heal. I'm one of the pieces to help you heal grief. Therapy is tremendously important, whether that's group or individual. That emotional support's necessary. And so I'm just one piece of that puzzle to help you along that journey of grief. Plus, learning to say no. People want me to be a part of stuff. I'm known to be the fun Kim. Is that terrible to say that? I enjoy, levity and I can, make fun of myself on a daily basis or prove that I'm human. Everybody needs that time away to recharge. And so I take that time. I thank you for that question because I have a sneaking feeling this person is a therapist, just psychically picking that up. But I thank you for all your questions. They were amazing. But as I like to do in all of my podcasts is give you a mediumship moment. It ties in with the question about are your angels ever upset with us? And so this mediumship moment, I name it, It's Okay to Be Gay. I was doing a recent event. It was absolutely gorgeous, the event I was doing. It was just perfect energy. The people were wonderful. The people that were hosting me were fantastic. And there was a woman who I had known through business. Her mother did not come through during the mediumship session. This person that was asking the question and a friend were sitting together. And there was an empty seat to each of one to their left and one to their right. So they were kind of like in a row, but there was empty seats on both sides of them. And to the person who was asking me the question, I could see a small Black woman dressed rather properly. She had a pillbox hat on. She had pearls around her neck. And she was very cute. She was sitting there with her purse in her lap. And I had seen her during the event, but she was a quiet energy. So anyway, this person asked me the question. She said she wanted to know whether or not her grandmother was angry at her. And so when I started to describe the woman sitting next to her, patting her hand of her granddaughter, and with a Bible in one hand and her purse in the other, this woman was communicating with me that it was okay. She was proud of her granddaughter, of who she was, and the person that she became. Although her grandmother was a staunch religious person, in physical realm, in the spiritual realm, she understood. And so I passed that message on. And the person started to tear up. Our angels don't carry with them judgments. On the other side, there's an enlightenment of things that they may have struggled here in the physical realm that they learn on the spiritual realm. I was happy to pass that message along. She's a cute little woman. And so the mediumship moment is that she passed along her approval of her granddaughter, her life, and continued to support her on the spiritual realm. So thanks everybody for listening to Mediumship Moments. I hope I've given you some insight. You've learned something today. And as I always say, keep chatting with your angels because they can hear you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time for another episode of Mediumship Moments. If you enjoyed this episode of Kim's podcast, check her out on Instagram and TikTok at Kim Durham Medium.